is it going, boys and girls? Welcome back to Key West Waterman. My name is Aaron Young. Today we're gonna attempt to do a little bit of Wahoo spearfishing, maybe commercial if it goes well. I've got my good friend Mermaid Kate with me. She's never shot a Wahoo, so we've got two goals. Try to put some Wahoo in the boat and hopefully put Kate's first in the boat. We're doing a little different technique than I would normally do. There's not a ton of current. So typically you drift with the current. There's not a ton of current today. There's only two of us. So I'm actually anchored up and we're gonna just kind of hop in and swim around the boat. Like I said, you can't always do this, and we typically don't do this because typically we're riding along with the current, but a little different style today. But we're gonna hop in, see if anything swims by. Welcome back underwater, everybody. As always, I'm going to share my thoughts on some of these dives. And as always, YouTube is a highlight reel, so a lot of stuff will be cut out. A lot of sitting around and waiting. You can see there's a pretty big ball of yellowtail sitting behind the boat. I had a little bit of leftover chum from a charter the day before, so I was trickling some out, just trying to create some commotion. As I talked about in the last episode, action brings action. So I think it was about 45 minutes in. You can't see it yet, but I can see a Wahoo way back behind me, kind of coming up current, coming in to check us out. And I didn't want to drop right away just because it was so far away. Just wanted to let him close the gap a little before I pursue. You can see I took my throw flasher, threw it out in front of where it was heading. So I want to kind of put it in its general direction that it's going. And like I always say, I want to meet the fish. I don't ever want to swim at it. This one kind of gives me a real easy shot. And I hesitated just for a sec there because he did a couple of little head bobs and I just wanted to make sure I was lined up right, but gave me a good shot and away it goes. And I didn't realize it up until I shot the fish and looked up. There was a boat inside the range that the dive flag should be. Not sure what they were doing. There was not another boat in sight. For some reason they decided to come fish right next to me. It looked like they were drift fishing, but still. You can see me looking at my dive flag trying to make sure it's visible. And to a lot of people this may not concern you, but, and I know this sounds extreme, but say this person hooks a sailfish and that sailfish greyhounds over to me and wraps a braid around me, I am in serious trouble. I know it's a long shot, but it could happen. Stresses me out. You can see the fish taking me for a ride here.
Can you not see my dive flag? I'm fighting a fish.
So I talk about quite a bit when it comes to blue water. Never grab a hold of the float unless you're willing to bet your fish on it. I saw the shot close enough. I was really confident with this shot, so I did grab a hold of the float, mainly because I'm on anchor and I don't want this fish to get too far away. And like I said, extremely confident with the shot. Wanted to put the brakes on it. The GoPro makes everything look wide angled. Realistically, I'm 150, 180 feet from the boat, so it does add a few more challenges, and you'll see in some of the later fish shooting these fish on anchor. Got a few more obstacles to deal with. Don't do it a whole lot. Only do it when there's pretty much no current, because you can get in trouble if you're not careful. Brain and bleed as always. I was trying to be careful not to cut. I've seen people do that, go to bleed a fish or gut a fish and they cut through their slip tip line. Just wanted to make sure it was clear.
You're good, you can hop back in. What are they doing?
There's one. About 45 minutes in, came up from behind us. Threw that throw flasher out and he came in right at it. Gave me an easy shot. Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Slowly behind you, there's a bunch of them.
So, not more than 15-20 minutes goes by and another school comes in. You'll hear me say slowly behind you. Just trying to let her know they're there, but not to, drop on them too excited. And you'll see, I'm going to pause this clip right here. This was her opportunity. Kate is still new to this, so she's still learning. I'm going to make her watch this video so she can see this. This is the best opportunity she's going to have on these fish. They're broadside, they're near her, so a few kicks and she's well within range. She pauses for just a second, which a lot of people do. They don't want to scare the fish away. And you can see as she starts to kick and line up, they turn, and now they're on their way out. This is what I call past your 50-yard line. Depending on which way they're coming from. Once they come in, you have a very short window of that shot, and then they're past your 50-yard line on the way out, if that makes sense. That's just how I try to describe it. But those fish came in, gave her a short window. They were on their way out pretty quick. She threw a shot. Unfortunately, it didn't stick. So now she's unloaded. The fish are moving pretty quickly, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a try. I've got a much bigger gun with a little more range. And quite a bit more kick. But this is probably one of the harder things to do is talk fish that have just been shot at to coming back in. Now, what's also going to come into play here is that the boat is anchored. This is where it can get tricky. These fish typically, you hope, aren't going to come across the boat like that, because now my float's behind me. If these fish give me a shot, I've got a chance of that buoy wrapping around the anchor line, or worst case scenario, going up under the motors and getting stuck, and I could either break something or tear out of the fish. So I don't know. I'm hopeful right here. I don't know whether I'm going to take a shot or not. I'm kind of just taking it as it comes. A lot of the decisions are on the spot when it comes to this kind of stuff. You can see I was going to go in front of the line. Now I'm thinking if I do get a shot, I want the buoy to be able to come under the boat and not have to go wrap around that line. So somehow I threw that flasher. These fish come right back in. Gives me a good shot. I take it. And we're off. So first thing I do is I'm looking at the float line. I go, okay, it's good. I want to make sure it didn't come under those motors because it will get stuck. I know if a fish takes it, it'll go under the boat just fine. So that's what happened. And that's the reason you see it just cut in front of the boat but behind the anchor line. That's the reason I swam between the boat and the anchor line when I was still chasing these guys. And a lot of this is luck. This fish didn't come back around, didn't go on the other side of the anchor line again. It just kept going forward and out and away from the boat. Made it fairly easy for me, and it didn't do a really big run. I hit it a little thin, but in the top of the head. And a lot of times when you hit these fish in the head, obviously they're going to get a little stunned and a little dazed. This fish didn't run like a wahoo normally would. So right here, I start to get a little concerned. If this fish goes down and under, then I run the risk of it getting wrapped or snagged, and then if the fish is stuck down there, you know, sharks come into play. So I got lucky there. Fish cut it short, stayed above the anchor line. When these fish get close, you really got to be careful. They do have really sharp teeth. You can see the other wahoo still out there cruising around. Really sharp teeth. There's a lot of sharp objects on all fish, especially wahoo. First thing I try to do is get those gills. Once you get those gills and you control that head, you are in charge. That's always my first goal. Always making sure I'm clear of that line behind me. Luckily was able to hold onto the tail and get the gills.
They're still right here. They're sitting right here. Hand me that black gun with the reel on it.
So I've been kind of tossing around the idea of making a kind of a sub channel, maybe call it like Key West Uncut or something, Key West Waterman Uncut. I do cut a ton of footage out, and I know a lot of you guys like the raw style footage, but these episodes would be an hour long if I posted it all in there. So if you're interested in maybe a sub channel, it'd be really easy because I would just take the raw footage, stick them together, and upload them that way. But if you'd like that, let me know. Leave a comment. Maybe I'll get that going. So these other Wahoo were sticking around, but so I tried to get a reel gun going, and unfortunately they didn't hang around for too long. I didn't get a shot.
They never came back. I just lost my knife.
Oh no!
That's all right.
Woo! Number 2, baby. Could you tell if yours was too far, or did you just miss?
I don't know.
Couldn't tell.
I couldn't tell, honestly.
Another set of them came in. Kate took a shot, and unfortunately didn't stick, but did get another in the boat. May end up going commercial today. So we've got 2 fish in the boat, and as you can see, all that commotion brought in some predators. Nothing out of the ordinary. Anytime there's struggling fish in the water, for the most part, sharks are going to find their way over. And you'll notice I grabbed a different gun, just in case you're curious. My shoulder was actually giving me a little grief this morning from loading those guns multiple times. That big gun's really hard to load. So I did grab a different, just barely smaller gun, a little easier to load. And this was really cool. We saw all kinds of stuff on this day other than Wahoo. Some manta rays. I've been here 10 years. I've seen 1 manta ray in Key West ever, and there's a whole school of them. They were really small compared to the ones I'm used to seeing, but a real treat. It was pretty awesome. And these are, I believe they call them actually man-o-war fish. The jellyfish above is a man-o-war, and really cool pattern on these. I wish I would have had my big camera. That would have been quite the picture. So another 30 minutes go by. Seems like once the first fish came in, these fish were coming in pretty consistently. You could see Kate was doing a drop there, trying to get lined up on these fish. And again, they're just kind of on their way out. She's still learning. I've been doing this long enough. I'm a little better at talking these things into coming back around. A lot of people ask me questions on like, what do I do? Like, if a Wahoo comes in, what do you do? I wish there was one answer. Every fish is different. It's, like I said, a lot of these decisions are on the fly. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what the fish is going to do. All depends on their behavior. You just read their body language and react depending on what they're doing. So I threw that. You can see I threw that throw flasher. They kind of came back in, but just not close enough. Little out of my range. But, you know, they're not hauling butt, so I'm going to continue to try. I'm not violently swimming at them on the surface. Just kind of staying mellow. You can see right now I'm sitting still. I'm not kicking towards them. And I use that throw flasher. I want to throw it in the direction that they're heading. I don't want to throw it behind them and try to make them turn all the way around, because that normally won't work. You want them to just break off of their path just a little bit, just long enough to check out that throw flasher. And the smaller one comes close enough, I decide I'm not going to be picky and take a shot. So I'm kind of horsing this fish in a little. It's a bit smaller, so I can control it a little bit. My main thing is I'm watching that slip tip the entire time. If it starts to tear anymore, I'm going to let this fish run, but I am watching the entire time. That's my main concern, is I don't want that fish to tear out. And just keeping an eye on it, trying to wear that fish out enough to get my hands on it so I can dispatch it properly.
Oh, shoot. them today. I said, we are in them today.
This is pretty funny. Just more commotion brings more stuff in. You can see this is a black grouper. I'm in about 110 feet of water, I think. This is a big black grouper. This is a trophy fish, and it's 60 feet off the bottom, well within range. Never happens during the season. I just thought that was pretty funny. That's every bit of a 35, 40 pound fish. He didn't have a care in the world.
There's a wahoo sitting under the boat.
So Kate hopped out to take a quick break, and I was messing with that grouper, and I come back around, and there's literally a wahoo sitting under the boat just hanging out. Try everything as usual. Throw the flasher, kind of grunting at it. The wiggle trick, nothing worked. Sometimes they don't come in. So to just give you a realistic timeline, this entire span of wahoo shooting took place over about 4.5, 5 hours. I know these videos make everything seem really sped up and that there's fish everywhere, but we sat there and floated on anchor for about 5 hours. And these fish come in, they're on my side, so I take the lead. I've got the go-ahead, as I say. And they're curious, not totally sold on it. I'm not really kicking very hard towards them, just kind of leaning into them, if that makes sense. I'm sticking with them, but I'm not violently kicking at them. Again, I put that throw flasher kind of up in the direction that the fish is swimming, and it decides it's curious and comes back around. And again, spearfishing wahoo on anchor is not the preferred method. We don't do this very often. It was just this day there was no current.
You see another one? Huh?
And something I forgot to mention earlier, when we do this anchor thing, we kind of have an escape plan. Say I shoot a big fish and it takes off way out and I can't catch up to it, I'm getting too far from the boat. Kate knows to hop in the boat, pull the anchor up and start following. We both know that. If she were to shoot a big one, I told her the same thing. Everyone that I'm out with, and we do this anchor thing, like I said, not very often, but that may have been something that comes into your mind, because a lot of times these wahoo will take off and go hundreds of yards. So you do need an escape plan. You can't just follow that fish and get, a couple hundred yards from the boat. You're really putting yourself at risk getting out of range of that die flag. So luckily I was able to maintain all these fish and keep them close to the boat this day, and it worked out.
Did you hit one?
I had such a good shot. I was so close.
Was there more? How many came in?
Just the one.
Just one?
Like a good size.
Number 4. Well, that went better than I could have ever hoped for. Ended up with 4. Unfortunately, Kate did not get her first, but I know Kate, and I promise you she'll be back. Ended up with 4 Wahoo, which is plenty enough to take to the market, so that's what we're going to do. We're done out here. Go sell these and give you guys a commercial breakdown. Haven't done one of those in quite some time. See you there. Fishing over here, man. Huh? Said we're running fishing over here. Tell him. Yeah. Alrighty, so let's do a commercial breakdown. It's been some time. As you saw, we sold all the fish. If by chance you're new to the channel, what happens is I have a commercial permit that allows me to go harvest fish. I take said fish to the market. They sell it to the restaurants. It ends up going on y'all's plates when you come down and visit Key West. So that's how that works. We ended up selling all the Wahoo. We had 4 of them. They were all on the smaller side. I think we had just shy of 100 pounds of Wahoo. Total sale was just under, I think it was around just shy of 500 bucks. With expenses, daily expenses, this is not considering monthly expenses, slip, maintenance, insurance, all that stuff. So probably a daily profit of, after fuel, close to probably $375, so not bad. Honestly, we just planned on going out and having fun and hopefully shooting a fish to eat, and ended up having enough to sell and made a couple bucks, and I still had a blast. So all in all, a great day. Will's over here trying to catch a tarpon. That is all I have. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I think that's all I got. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.